Commander Zektar pressed his three-clawed fingers against the cold metal surface of the command console. The blue lights from the tactical display cast strange shadows across his reptilian face. For 3 years, he had watched the humans spread across the galaxy like some kind of disease. Their small ships moved from star to star, building colonies on planets that other species had ignored. The Hegemony Council called humans primitive. They said these bipedal creatures from Earth were nothing more than children playing with toys. They did not understand. Zektar had believed this too until today. The communication screen flickered to life, showing the face of Admiral Korthvin. The Admiral's 4 eyes blinked slowly, a sign that he was either very tired or very angry. Zektar suspected it was both. "Commander, explain to me how a single human transport ship destroyed one of our dreadnoughts," Admiral Korthvin said. His voice carried the cold edge that made junior officers tremble. Zektar looked at the datapad in his hands. The numbers still made no sense to him. "Sir, the human vessel Venture was carrying 300 civilians, mining families, engineers, and scientists. When we demanded their surrender, they refused. Civilians refuse military orders all the time. That does not explain why the battleship Corinth is now floating in pieces." Lieutenant Commander Vexhai stepped forward from her position at the intelligence station. Her thin, gray skin seemed even paler than usual. "Admiral, the humans did something we have never seen before. They turned their transport ship into a weapon." Admiral Korthvin's 4 eyes focused on Vexhai with laser intensity. "Explain." Vexhai activated the holographic display above the command table. A blue projection showed the space battle that had taken place 6 hours ago. The massive hegemony. Dreadnought Corinth appeared first, its dark hull bristling with weapons. Then came the human ship Venture, tiny by comparison, looking more like a flying warehouse than a warship. "The human captain, Jake Morrison, received our surrender demand. At 14:30 hours, Vexhai continued. Standard protocol dictated that he would either comply or attempt to flee. Instead, he did neither. The hologram showed the Venture suddenly changing course, pointing its nose directly at the Corinth. Warning shots from the dreadnought had no effect. The transport ship continued its approach. "At first, we thought they were attempting to ram us," Zektar said. "Captain Mordak ordered evasive maneuvers, but the human ship was faster than expected. It struck our starboard hull section at full speed." The hologram exploded in brilliant light as the two ships collided. When the display cleared, the Corinth was breaking apart, its massive hull cracked open like an egg. Emergency pods scattered from both vessels like frightened insects. Admiral Korthvin studied the projection with growing concern. How did a transport ship destroy a dreadnought? Their vessel should have been obliterated on impact. "That is what troubles us, sir," Vexhai replied. "Analysis of the wreckage shows that the humans modified their ship before the attack. They removed safety systems from their fusion reactor. They packed their cargo hold with mining explosives. They even stripped away life support from non-essential sections to reduce weight and increase speed." Zektar felt a chill run down his spine as he remembered the aftermath. "When our rescue teams reached the human escape pods, we expected to find broken survivors begging for mercy. Instead, we found something else entirely." The display changed to show the interior of a hegemony medical bay. Human prisoners sat on metal benches, their hands bound with energy restraints, but their eyes held no fear. They looked at their alien captors with something that made Zektar uncomfortable. It was not hatred or anger. It was calculation. The human female, Lisa Carter, had been their navigation officer, Vexhai continued. During interrogation, she told us that converting civilian equipment into weapons took them less than 4 hours. Their chief engineer, Dan Phillips, explained how they had jury-rigged their mining fabricators to create explosive devices. Even their medical officer, Amy Patterson, had synthesized combat drugs from basic supplies. Admiral Korthvin's claws clicked against the metal table. "You're telling me that civilians created military-grade weapons from mining equipment?" "Yes, sir. But that is not the most disturbing part." Zektar pulled up another file on his datapad. "The human captain, Jake Morrison, gave us a message before he died in the collision. He said, 'Tell your leaders that humans do not kneel.' The eye Silence in the command center stretched for long moments. The Admiral's breathing was the only sound, deep and slow like a predator considering its next move. "Sir," Vexai said quietly, "there is more." Admiral Korthvin's eyes narrowed. "Continue. We have received reports from 7 other hegemony fleets. Similar incidents are occurring across human space. A mining station on Kepler 442b turned its asteroid processing equipment into mass drivers and destroyed 2 of our scout ships. A human research vessel called the Discovery used its laboratory equipment to create biological weapons that incapacitated an entire boarding party." Zektar added, "Every engagement follows the same pattern. We expect surrender or retreat. Instead, humans adapt whatever they have available and turn it into something dangerous. They fight like cornered animals but with the intelligence of an advanced species." The Admiral stood up from his chair, his tall frame casting a shadow across the room. "How many ships have we lost to these civilians?" 17 vessels damaged or destroyed in the past month, Vexai replied. "But the casualties are not the real problem, sir." "Then what is?" "The humans are learning from each encounter. Every battle teaches them more about our technology, our tactics, and our weaknesses. They share this information instantly across their communication networks. What one human learns, they all learn." Admiral Korthvin walked to the large viewing window that looked out into space. Stars twinkled in the distance, cold and beautiful. Somewhere among those points of light were humans, preparing for war with weapons made from farming tools and mining equipment. "The Council believes humans are primitive," the Admiral said without turning around. "They see Earth as a backward planet populated by creatures who barely understand fire. But primitives do not destroy dreadnoughts with transport ships." Zektar felt obligated to defend the Council's position. "Sir, human technology is still centuries behind ours. Their fastest ships use crude fusion drives. Their weapons are chemical projectiles and simple energy beams. By every measure, they should not pose a threat." Admiral Korthvin finally turned around, and his expression made both officers step backward. "Commander, have you ever studied the predators of ancient hegemony worlds?" "No, sir. The most dangerous ones were not the largest or the strongest. They were the ones that could adapt. When their prey developed armor, these predators grew sharper claws. When their prey became faster, these predators learned to hunt in packs. When their prey learned to hide, these predators developed better senses." The Admiral activated the holographic display again, showing the wreckage of the Corinth. "Humans are apex predators, Commander. They come from a death world where survival requires constant adaptation. While we have spent centuries perfecting our technology, they have spent centuries perfecting themselves." Vexai looked at the scattered debris in the hologram. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "We need to understand what makes humans so dangerous. I am authorizing Operation Deep Study. We will capture human military personnel and observe them under controlled conditions. Once we understand their psychology, we can exploit their weaknesses." Zektar felt a knot of worry in his stomach. "Sir, if humans can turn mining equipment into weapons, what will trained soldiers do?" Admiral Korthvin smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "That, Commander, is exactly what we need to find out. Contact Dr. Yithmar at the research facility on Titan 7. Tell her to prepare for human subjects." As the Admiral left the command center, Zektar stared at the tactical display showing human space. Somewhere out there, creatures who refused to surrender were building more ships, training more crews, and preparing for a war that the hegemony had foolishly started. He had a feeling that capturing humans would prove much more difficult than studying them. Captain Alex Bennett stood on the bridge of the human frigate Defiant, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. The ship was small compared to the massive vessels that other species built, but it was fast and tough. More importantly, it was crewed by humans who knew how to fight. The communication console beeped and Officer Ryan Cooper turned toward the captain. "Sir, we are receiving a distress signal from the mining station on Kepler 442b. Bennett walked over to Cooper's station. "Put it through." A crackling voice filled the bridge. "This is Station Chief Karen Williams on Kepler 442b. We are under attack by unknown vessels. They destroyed our communications array and are demanding surrender. We have civilians here, including children. Please, anyone who receives this message, we need help. Bennett looked at his tactical officer, Nina Walsh. She was already pulling up star charts on her display. Distance to Kepler 442b? 4 hours at maximum speed, Walsh replied. But Captain, something feels wrong about this. Bennett trusted Walsh's instincts. She had served in 3 frontier conflicts and had developed a sense for when situations were not what they appeared to be. What is bothering you? The signal quality is too good for a station under attack. If pirates destroyed their communications array, how are they transmitting with such clarity? Communications Officer Cooper raised his hand. Sir, I am analyzing the signal pattern. The background noise does not match what we would expect from Kepler 442b's location. Bennett considered this information. The frontier was dangerous, and pirate attacks were common, but his crew was right to be suspicious. Nina, what do we know about that mining station? Walsh pulled up the station's file on her screen. According to our records, Kepler 442b has a population of 200 miners and their families. They extract rare metals from the asteroid belt. The station commander is supposed to be Chief Williams, as we heard on the transmission. Supposed to be? Sir, according to this file, Chief Williams died in an accident 3 months ago. The new station commander should be Deputy Chief Robert Hayes. Bennett felt cold fingers crawl up his spine. Cooper, trace that signal. Find out exactly where it is coming from. Cooper's fingers moved quickly across his console. After several minutes, he looked up with concern on his face. Captain, the signal is not coming from the mining station. It is being transmitted from a location 30,000 kilometers away, in the asteroid field. Marine Commander Steve Jackson stepped forward from his position near the weapons console. Captain, this smells like a trap. Bennett nodded slowly. I agree. But if there are real civilians in danger, we cannot ignore the call. He turned to his crew. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Chief Santos, I want a full diagnostic of all ship systems. Chief Petty Officer Maria Santos was already running her scanners over the engineering displays. All systems showing normal, Captain. But I am detecting some unusual energy readings on the long-range sensors. What kind of readings? Difficult to say, sir. The signature is not in our database. It could be a new type of drive system, or possibly some kind of cloaking technology. Bennett made his decision. We proceed to Kepler 442b, but we go in ready. For trouble. Nina, plot a course that keeps us near the asteroid field. If this is a trap, I want cover nearby. The Defiant changed course, its engines pushing the ship toward the distant mining station. As they traveled, the crew prepared for combat. Jackson's Marines checked their weapons and armor. Walsh ran battle simulations on her tactical computers. Cooper monitored all communication frequencies for signs of enemy activity. 2 hours into their journey, Santos called out from her engineering station. Captain, those energy readings are getting stronger. Whatever is out there, it is big, and there is more than one of them. Bennett looked at the main screen but saw only empty space and distant asteroids. Any visual contact? Negative, sir. If there are ships out there, they are using some kind of stealth technology. Walsh studied her tactical display with growing concern. Captain, I am reading mass shadows in the asteroid field. The computer estimates at least 3 large vessels, possibly Dreadnought class. Hegemony? Unknown, sir. But if they are that large and staying hidden, they are definitely hostile. Bennett weighed his options. The smart choice would be to turn around and call for reinforcements. But if there were real civilians at the mining station, every minute counted. How long? Until we reach Kepler 442b? 90 minutes at current speed, Cooper replied. Santos, can you give me more speed without compromising our systems? The chief engineer shook her head. Sir, we are already pushing the engines beyond recommended limits. Any more speed and we risk a reactor overload. Bennett was about to respond when alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Walsh looked up from her console with alarm. Captain, multiple contacts decloaking. 3 heavy cruisers, coming in fast from the asteroid field. The main screen changed to show three massive alien vessels emerging from what had appeared to be empty space. Their dark hulls were covered with weapons, and energy was building around unfamiliar devices mounted on their sides. Hegemony ships, Jackson said grimly. Those are Korath-class battlecruisers. Cooper's communication equipment crackled to life. Human vessel, this is Commander Fluxtar of the Hegemony fleet. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction. Bennett looked at his crew. 45 people against 3 warships, each 10 times the size of the Defiant. The odds were impossible, but he saw no fear in their eyes, only determination. Cooper, open a channel. Channel open, sir. Bennett stood straight and spoke clearly. This is Captain Alex Bennett of the Earth Defense Force. We do not surrender to pirates and murderers. If you want this ship, come and take it. The Hegemony response was immediate. All 3 enemy vessels fired at once, but not with their main weapons. Instead, they used some kind of energy beam that made the Defiant systems flicker and die. All power systems failing, Santos reported. They are using some kind of dampening field. Our engines are offline, weapons are offline, life support is switching to emergency power. Bennett grabbed the nearest handhold as the ship shuddered. How long do we have? Emergency power will last maybe 6 hours. But Captain, they are sending boarding parties. Through the main screen, Bennett could see small craft launching from the Hegemony ships. Each one was packed with alien soldiers in combat armor. Jackson, get your Marines ready. Santos, I need you to do something for me. Yes, sir. Can you rig the reactor to overload on my command? Santos stared at him for a moment, then nodded. It will take about 10 minutes to bypass the safety systems. Do it. Nina, Cooper, I need you to send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what happened here. Tell them the Hegemony is using new technology to disable our ships. Walsh looked confused. Sir, how can we send a message with communications offline? Bennett smiled grimly. We improvise. Cooper, can you jury-rig the emergency beacon to carry data? Maybe, sir, but it will only transmit for a few seconds before the power dies. That is all we need. Santos, how are those reactor modifications coming? Almost done, Captain. But sir, if I overload the reactor, the explosion will destroy us too. I know, but it will also take out those boarding parties and maybe damage their ships. Better than letting them capture us and learn our ship's secrets. The sound of cutting tools echoed through the hull as the alien boarding parties began breaking through the outer airlocks. Jackson and his Marines took positions in the corridors, ready to fight. Captain, Cooper called out, I have the beacon, ready. What message should I send? Bennett thought for a moment. Tell them that humans do not surrender. Tell them we fought to the end, and tell them to be ready, because the Hegemony is coming. The first airlock exploded inward, and alien soldiers poured into the ship. The battle for the Defiant had begun. Dr. Ythmar walked through the corridors of the research facility on Titan 7, her 6 legs making soft clicking sounds on the metal floor. She had spent 40 years studying the minds of different species, learning how to break their will and make them obedient. The Hegemony had used her methods to control dozens of conquered races. Today, she faced her greatest challenge. 37 human prisoners had been brought to her facility, survivors from the battle at Kepler 442b. Admiral Korthvin wanted to understand what made humans so dangerous. Dr. Ythmar was confident she would provide those answers. The facility was designed like a maze with individual cells connected by narrow hallways. Each prisoner was kept separate from the others, unable to communicate or plan together. This isolation technique had broken the strongest warriors from across the galaxy. Dr. Ythmar stopped at the first cell and looked through the transparent wall. Inside sat Colonel Pete Harrison, the highest-ranking human officer they had captured. He was sitting on the metal bench with his back straight, staring at the wall. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes were alert and calculating. Subject 1 shows no signs of psychological breakdown after 72 hours of isolation. She dictated to her recording device. This is unusual. Most subjects begin showing stress responses within the first day. She moved to the next cell, where Marine Sergeant Lucy Turner was doing push-ups on the floor. The human female had been exercising for hours, maintaining her physical condition despite being imprisoned. Subject 2 is using physical activity to maintain mental stability. This suggests humans have developed coping mechanisms for confinement. In the third cell, navigation specialist Chris Young was scratching marks on the wall with his fingernail. Dr. Yithmar activated the cell's monitoring system and realized the human was creating a calendar, keeping track of time. Subject 3 is establishing routines to maintain psychological order. These behaviors indicate a species adapted to long-term survival under adverse conditions. Dr. Yithmar continued her rounds, observing each prisoner. Communications officer Helen Brooks was tapping rhythmic patterns against the wall. Supply clerk Tony Garcia was collecting small metal fragments that had fallen from the ceiling. Medical officer Janet Stone was exercising her memory by reciting what appeared to be technical manuals. What disturbed Dr. Yithmar most was that none of the humans seemed broken by their capture. They were not begging for release or showing signs of despair. Instead, they appeared to be adapting to their environment and preparing for something. She returned to her office and activated the communication link to Admiral Korthvan. The Admiral's image appeared on the screen, his 4 eyes focused intently on her. "Admiral, I must report that initial observations are not meeting expectations." "Explain." "Human prisoners are not responding to isolation techniques that have proven effective on other species. They appear to be using the time to gather information about our facility and maintain their physical and mental condition." Admiral Korthvan's claws tapped against his desk. "Perhaps they require different methods. What do you recommend?" "I want to try psychological pressure using their emotional attachments. Our intelligence indicates that humans form strong bonds with their families and home planet. I will show them recordings of Earth and see if this breaks their resolve." "Proceed, Doctor." Yithmar ended the communication and prepared for the next phase of her research. She had obtained holographic recordings of Earth from hegemony intelligence files. Images of human cities, families, and natural landscapes should make the prisoners homesick and desperate to return. She started with Colonel Harrison. The cell's walls transformed into displays showing Earth's blue oceans and white clouds. Human. Children played in parks while their parents watched. Couples walked hand in hand through city streets. Dr. Yithmar expected to see sadness or longing in the colonel's face. Instead, she saw something that made her step back. The human's expression became harder, more determined. His hands clenched into fists and his jaw tightened. "Interesting reaction," she muttered to herself. She tried the same technique on the other prisoners. Marine Sergeant Turner looked at the images of Earth with fierce pride. Navigation specialist. Young studied the recordings as if memorizing every detail. Supply clerk. Garcia's eyes filled with tears, but his posture became more defiant, not more submissive. Medical Officer Stone looked at the holographic displays and spoke for the first time since her capture. "You think showing us what we are, fighting for will make us weak? You understand nothing about humans." Dr. Yithmar realized she had made a terrible mistake. Instead of breaking the prisoners' spirits, she had reminded them why they needed to escape and return home. The humans were no longer just surviving in captivity. They were planning. Over the next several days, the doctor observed disturbing changes in prisoner behavior. Helen Brooks had developed a complex tapping code and was communicating with prisoners in nearby cells. Tony Garcia was somehow collecting metal fragments and small pieces of equipment. Janet Stone was teaching other prisoners medical techniques for treating injuries. Most worrying of all, the humans had begun moving during the facility's night cycle, when fewer guards were on duty. Surveillance cameras showed them examining their cell walls, testing the strength of doors, and studying guard patrol patterns. Dr. Yithmar increased security and activated additional monitoring systems, but the humans adapted to each new measure within hours. When she added more cameras, they found the blind spots. When she changed guard schedules, they memorized the new patterns. When she tried to jam their tapping communications, they developed new methods using scratches on walls. On the 7th day of their imprisonment, Dr. Yithmar made a discovery that chilled her blood. During routine cell inspections, guards found that Tony Garcia had been systematically removing small electronic components from his cell's life support system. Helen Brooks had used threads from her clothing to create nearly invisible tripwires. Janet Stone had synthesized a mild paralytic drug from cleaning chemicals that maintenance crews had accidentally left accessible. The humans were not just planning to escape. They were preparing for war. Dr. Yithmar called an emergency meeting with her research staff. We need to understand what we are dealing with. These prisoners are not behaving like captives. They are behaving like soldiers behind enemy lines. Her assistant, Dr. Kethaval, pulled up behavioral analysis charts on the main display. Doctor, the patterns are unlike anything in our database. Human subjects appear to be coordinating their activities across multiple cells without direct communication. That is impossible. Our isolation protocols prevent contact between prisoners. Yet, the evidence suggests otherwise. Watch this recording from last night. The display showed surveillance footage from the corridor between cells. At exactly the same moment, 12 different humans began exercising in their cells. The timing was perfect, synchronized to the second. How are they coordinating? Dr. Yithmar asked. We believe they are using the facility's own systems against us. Vibrations through the walls, patterns in the air circulation, even the timing of automated announcements. They have turned our entire facility into a communication network. Dr. Yithmar felt a growing sense of dread. What else have they been doing? Dr. Kethaval hesitated before answering. Doctor, we believe they have been conducting reconnaissance on our security systems, guard procedures, and facility layout. Somehow they know more about this installation than some of our own staff members. The alarm that sounded at that moment confirmed Dr. Yithmar's worst fears. Emergency lights flashed throughout the facility as automated systems announced a security breach. Multiple cell doors had been opened simultaneously, and human prisoners were loose in the corridors. Dr. Yithmar activated the communication system to coordinate with security forces, but found that the network had been compromised. Surveillance cameras showed chaos throughout the facility as 28 humans moved through the corridors with military precision. They were not running randomly like escaped prisoners. They were executing a coordinated plan that they had developed while appearing to be helpless captives. And Dr. Yithmar realized that she had given them the perfect opportunity to study their captors while pretending to be studied herself. The humans had turned her own research facility into a school, and they had been the teachers all along. The alarm sirens screamed through the research facility as Dr. Yithmar ran toward the security center. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors, casting frightening shadows on the walls. 28 human prisoners had somehow escaped from their cells at the exact same moment, and now they were moving through the facility like a military unit. Guard Captain Fluxtar was shouting orders into his communication device when Dr. Yithmar reached the security center. All units converge on Section 7. The humans are heading for the main laboratory. Dr. Yithmar looked at the security monitors and felt her blood turn cold. The escaped prisoners were not running in panic like other species did when they broke free. Instead, they moved with purpose and coordination. Groups of humans were splitting up and heading to different parts of the facility, each group having a specific mission. Captain, how did they all escape at once? She asked. Fluxtar pointed to a display showing the cell block. They used cleaning chemicals to dissolve the electronic locks. But that is not the worst part. Look at this. The screen changed to show the facility's computer system. Data files were being deleted one by one, and security cameras were being turned off in sequence. They are destroying all our research data and taking control of our own systems. Dr. Yithmar watched in horror as weeks of careful research disappeared from the computers. The humans were not just escaping. They were making sure that the hegemony learned nothing from their capture. On another monitor, she could see 5 humans moving through the central laboratory. Mechanics Joe Parker and Ruth Kelly were working together to reprogram the facility's maintenance robots. Pilots Sam Wright and Carol Davis were downloading data from computer terminals. Communications officer Nick Foster was jamming the facility's ability to call for help. Why are they not trying to reach the escape pods? Dr. Yithmar asked. Because they are not trying to escape, Fluxtar replied grimly. They are trying to take over the entire facility. The truth of his words became clear as more reports came in. Human prisoners had reached the power generator and were modifying the energy output. Others had broken into the weapons storage and were arming themselves with hegemony equipment. A group led by Colonel Harrison had taken control of the communication array. Dr. Yithmar activated her personal communicator and tried to contact Admiral Korthvan, but got only static. The humans had cut off all outside communication. "Captain, we need to stop them before they reach the main computer core," she said. Fluxtar was already moving, leading a squad of armed guards toward the laboratory section. But when they arrived, they found something that defied all military logic. The 5 humans had not barricaded themselves in a defensive position. Instead, they had spread out through the large room and were continuing their work even as armed enemies surrounded them. "Surrender immediately," Fluxtar commanded, pointing his weapon at Joe Parker. The human mechanic looked up from the robot he was reprogramming and smiled. "Sorry, but we have work to finish." Ruth Kelly activated the maintenance robot she had been working on. The machine, which was normally used for cleaning and repairs, had been converted into a weapon. Its arms sparked with electrical energy as it moved to defend the humans. Pilots Wright and Davis had taken positions behind computer terminals and were using downloaded schematics to understand the facility's layout better than the guards who worked there every day. They threw improvised smoke grenades made from laboratory chemicals, filling the room with thick gray clouds. Communications Officer Foster had somehow rigged the room's speakers to emit a high-pitched sound that hurt the aliens' sensitive hearing. The guards stumbled and covered their ears while the humans continued working. Dr. Yithmar realized that this was not a desperate last stand. The humans had planned this entire operation while sitting in their cells, appearing to be helpless prisoners. They had studied their captors, learned the facility's weaknesses, and prepared for this moment. But what happened next truly terrified her. As Fluxtar's guards finally managed to surround the 5 humans, they did not surrender or beg for mercy. Instead, Joe Parker pulled out a small device that Dr. Yithmar recognized as a detonator. "This facility has a self-destruct system in case of contamination," Parker said calmly. "We found the activation codes in your computers. If you do not let us complete our mission, we will destroy this entire station." Fluxtar lowered his weapon slightly. "You would kill yourselves just to stop us?" Ruth Kelly laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "Captain, you still do not understand what you are dealing with. We are not afraid of death. We are afraid of failure." Dr. Yithmar watched the standoff and realized that everything she thought she knew about intelligent behavior was wrong. These humans were willing to die rather than let their enemies gain any advantage. It was a level of dedication that no other species had ever shown. "What do you want?" she asked. Colonel Harrison's voice came through the facility's communication system. He had reached the main transmitter and was broadcasting to everyone in the station. "We want to send a message to our people, a message that tells them what we learned about your technology and your weaknesses." Dr. Yithmar felt a chill of understanding. The humans had not just been prisoners in her facility. They had been spies, gathering intelligence about hegemony, capabilities, and methods. Every test she had performed, every security measure she had shown them, had been carefully observed and analyzed. "You used us," she said quietly. "You used us first," Harrison replied. "The difference is that we learned more from you than you learned from us." The truth of this statement was becoming clear as reports continued to come in from around the facility. Humans had accessed classified files about hegemony military technology. They had recorded conversations between guards that revealed strategic information. They had even analyzed the facility's construction to understand hegemony engineering methods. Fluxtar made a decision. Let them send their message, then we can recapture them. But Dr. Yithmar knew it was too late. The damage was already done. The humans had turned their imprisonment into a learning experience, and now they were sharing that knowledge with their species. Harrison's transmission went out on multiple frequencies, carrying technical data about hegemony ships, weapons, and tactics. But more than just information, it carried a message that would echo across human space. We did not surrender. We learned. We adapted. And we are coming home. As the transmission ended, the humans throughout the facility began moving, again. But instead of trying to escape, they were systematically destroying everything that could not be taken with them. Computer cores were overloaded. Research equipment was sabotaged. Even the facility's life support systems were damaged. Dr. Yithmar realized that the humans had never intended to escape in the traditional sense. Their escape was the transmission of information back to Earth. Everything else was just ensuring that the hegemony gained nothing from their capture. When hegemony reinforcements finally arrived 6 hours later, they found a facility that was barely functional. The human prisoners allowed themselves to be recaptured, but they did so with expressions of satisfaction on their faces. They had accomplished their mission. They had turned captivity into victory. Dr. Yithmar stood in the ruins of her laboratory and tried to write her final report. How could she explain to the Admiral that the humans had outsmarted them at every turn? How could she describe the way they had transformed from prisoners into teachers, showing the hegemony their own weaknesses? The humans had revealed something terrifying about their species. They did not just fight with weapons or ships. They fought with their minds, turning every situation into an opportunity to learn and adapt. And now that knowledge was spreading across human space, preparing their species for a war that the hegemony was no longer certain they could win. Admiral Korthvin stood before the Hegemony Council chamber, his career hanging by a thread. The 12 species that made up the council sat in their elevated seats, looking down at him with expressions ranging from disappointment to anger. Behind him, holographic displays showed the devastating results of Operation Deep Study. "Admiral," spoke Council Leader Vorthak, her voice echoing through the vast chamber. "Explain to us how a research facility designed to study primitive humans became a source of strategic intelligence for Earth." Korthvin activated his datapad and began his report, though every word felt like a nail in his coffin. "Council members, the humans we captured were not the helpless prisoners we expected. During their time in our facility, they gathered more information about our technology and tactics than we gathered about them." The displays around the chamber showed images from the destroyed research station, burnt computer terminals, damaged equipment, and deleted files painted a picture of complete failure. 3 research facilities have been compromised, Korthvin continued. 2 dreadnoughts have suffered critical system failures due to human sabotage. Most significantly, humanity now possesses detailed intelligence about our fleet movements, weapon capabilities, and tactical doctrine. Council member Jethron, representing the warrior caste, slammed his massive fist on his seat's armrest. "How is this possible? Humans are a primitive species that discovered space travel only decades ago." Dr. Yithmar stepped forward from her position near the wall. The council had summoned her to explain her research findings. "Council members, that assumption is the source of our problem. Humans are not primitive. They are evolutionarily advanced in ways we never considered." She activated the holographic projector, and images of Earth appeared in the center of the chamber. The planet looked peaceful from space, with blue oceans and white clouds. But the data streaming alongside the images told a different story. "Earth is what we classify as a death world," Dr. Yithmar explained. "During the past 65 million years, this planet has experienced 5 major extinction events. Ice ages that lasted thousands of years, volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun, asteroid impacts that destroyed entire ecosystems." Council member Zeftel leaned forward in her seat. "Many worlds have experienced natural disasters. What makes Earth different? On other worlds, such disasters eliminated most life forms. On Earth, they made life stronger. Humans are the descendants of creatures that survived every catastrophe their planet could create. They are biologically designed to adapt to impossible situations." The holographic display changed to show human anatomy. Dr. Yithmar pointed to various systems as she spoke. "Human bodies have multiple backup systems for critical functions. Their brains can rewire themselves to compensate for damage. Their immune systems can adapt to new diseases within days. But most importantly, their minds are programmed to find solutions under extreme pressure. Admiral Korthevin added his own observations. During our battles with human forces, we discovered that they do not fight like other species. They do not follow standard military doctrine. Instead, they adapt their tactics to each situation, often using methods that our computers cannot predict. The council members exchanged worried glances. For 1,000 years, the hegemony had conquered species after species by following proven strategies. Study the enemy, identify their weaknesses, and exploit those weaknesses with superior technology and numbers. But humans seem to have no exploitable weaknesses. Council leader Vorthak spoke again. Dr. Yithmar, what did your research reveal about human psychology? The doctor hesitated before answering. Council leader, humans do not fight for the same reasons other species fight. Most beings fight for survival, territory, or resources. Humans fight for abstract concepts that they consider more important than their own lives. Explain. They call these concepts freedom, dignity, and justice. A human will endure any suffering and make any sacrifice to protect these ideas. This makes them completely unpredictable in combat situations. The holographic display showed recorded conversations between human prisoners. Even under torture, they had refused to give information that might help their captors. Even facing death, they had continued to resist. Furthermore, Dr. Yithmar continued, humans possess pack-hunting instincts that allow them to coordinate without direct communication. They can work together as a unified force even when separated by vast distances. We observed this behavior repeatedly during our experiments. Council member Jethron growled in frustration. Surely their technology is still inferior to ours. Our ships are larger, our weapons more powerful. Admiral Korthevin shook his head. That technological advantage is disappearing rapidly. Humans learn from every encounter with our forces. They study our weapons and develop countermeasures. They analyze our ship designs and find weaknesses. What they lack in advanced technology, they compensate for with creativity and adaptability. The Admiral activated another display showing recent battle reports. In the past month, humans have used mining equipment as weapons, converted transport ships into guided missiles, and turned research stations into military fortresses. They do not need advanced weapons because they can turn anything into a weapon. Dr. Quental, the hegemony ZEU, chief xenoanthropologist, requested permission to speak. The council leader gestured for her to continue. Council members, I have studied human cultural records that we captured during our raids. What I discovered may be the most disturbing aspect of this species. The displays changed to show images from human history, battles, revolutions, and conflicts that span thousands of years. Humans have been fighting each other for their entire recorded history. They have developed warfare into an art form. Every human military officer studies battles that occurred hundreds of years ago, learning from both victories and defeats. Their entire species has been preparing for war for millennia. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The hegemony had attacked a species that was biologically and culturally designed for combat. Council leader Vorthak finally spoke. What are our options? Admiral Korthevin straightened his posture. We have 3 choices, Council leader. First, we can continue our military campaign against humanity and face a species that grows stronger with each battle, learns from every defeat, and never stops adapting. Second choice, we can attempt to contain human expansion by establishing a defensive perimeter around their space. However, humans have already demonstrated their ability to infiltrate our territory and gather intelligence. And the third option? Korthevin took a deep breath before answering. We negotiate a peace treaty and recognize humanity as an equal member of the galactic community. The suggestion caused an uproar in the chamber. For 1,000 years, the hegemony had never negotiated with conquered species. They had always been the dominant force, imposing their will through superior technology and military might. You are suggesting that we, the masters of this galaxy, should negotiate with a species that has barely left their home system? Jethron roared. I am suggesting that we acknowledge reality, Korthevin replied calmly. Humans are not like other species we have encountered. They cannot be conquered in the traditional sense because they refuse to accept defeat. Every victory against them teaches them how to fight us better. Dr. Yithmar supported the Admiral's assessment. Council members, my research indicates that humans become more dangerous when they are threatened. Their response to pressure is not submission, but innovation. The longer we fight them, the stronger they become. Council leader Vorthak stood up from her seat, her decision weighing heavily on her shoulders. Admiral Dr. Yithmar, you are telling us that humanity represents a fundamental change in galactic politics. Yes, Council leader. The age of easy conquest is over. Humans have entered the galaxy, and nothing will ever be the same. The Council. Chambers remained silent for long minutes as the representatives of 12 species considered their future. They had ruled the galaxy through fear and superior technology. Now they faced a species that seemed to thrive on challenge and grow stronger through adversity. Finally, Council leader Vorthak made her announcement. The Hegemony Council authorizes you to begin peace negotiations with the human government. We will treat them as equals and establish formal diplomatic relations. As the council session ended, Admiral Korthfin reflected on the irony of the situation. The Hegemony had set out to study humanity and learn their secrets. Instead, they had learned the most important lesson of all. Humans do not surrender, and they never stop fighting for what they believe in. The galaxy had a new apex predator, and its name was humanity.